And thank you for tuning in to Curb Uncensored. I am your host, Carolyn. And guess what? I have an awesome, awesome guest today. And I'm so excited. First of all, I would like to say, Katie, it is a pleasure to meet you. I am so excited. And thank you for coming and being a guest on my show today. It is so difficult. You have such a broad resume. I have researched you, of course, and you popped up all over the internet. So I had no problem pulling your name up, some of your work, and all of that. And I was just so impressed. You're a little firecracker. Like, you've been everywhere doing a lot of different things, honey. So I am honored that you would come and be on my show. Now, I tell you, one of the biggest challenges that I have, and we were just kind of briefly speaking about my name, but one of the biggest challenges I have is with last names, right? I'm like, I sure hope I don't butcher. When I saw your last name, I'm like, hope I don't butcher her last name. I just really do. So I'm going to give it a shot, and you let me know if I'm close or if I'm in left field. Okay?
Well, the audience must know that there's one, you could have did a cheat, like, oh, can I make sure this is how you say your name and then try to do it? But you didn't even do that. So like,
no.
You're brave. You're very courageous.
I am. And you know what? I don't like to be scripted. I want to just come straight in and be straight, open, and honest. So what you see is what you get. So if I get it wrong, say, girlfriend, no.
Okay.
But okay, this is my biggest, and doing a podcast, you have the Smiths, the Johnsons, and you get all those right. But when you have a name like, okay, let me see, Chonacas?
Yeah.
Am I close? Did I get it right?
You did it. Yeah.
I have been Chonacas. Okay. It was so funny. I did a quick little intro about my show today. And I said, I have a guest coming on. I did not want to chop it up. I said, Katie Chonacas. Because Siri tells you a lot of things, right? And I I didn't go to Siri. I just Googled, and Google doesn't talk back. Well, at least it didn't to me. And I saw a lot of your info, but no pronunciation of the name. So I'm like, I'm looking at it. Chonacas. So I got it correct.
Yeah, and you know what? I apologize for having you do all that research, because but this is a very mindful of for me to take more action, because being vulnerable is one thing, but to being on my Instagram or social media like, hi, I'm Katie Chonacas, blah blah blah. It's like, I need, actually, just for that reason, to not make it difficult for people. Like, for me, it's like the back of my hand. Like, I already know about it, but I need to do that. So thank you for the encouragement, because I feel like it's like all attention on me, like when I go to do something like that, but really it's not. It's like, we need to express and let people know, or else they're not going to know. So
right. And I'm like, certain things, I'm sure, well, let me just let everyone know a little bit about you. Some of my audience that may not be as familiar, you have, like I said, you're all over. You have a pretty extensive resume when it comes to the entertainment industry. And not just that, you do a whole lot of stuff. And I had to write my cheat sheet down on this one now, because when I tell you've done some things. So let me just go over a little bit of your stuff here. You've worked on CBS CSI New York Cold Case. You've worked on FX Networks, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Law and Order SVU, and that's just to name a few, right? You've also been with some really big names. You've also booked with Antonio Banderas, Nicolas Cage, Al Pacino. Well, I know I got those names right, among others.
Oh yeah.
So you've done a lot. You're a musician. How you do it all? You recently put out. Now, help me with this. Put out your first album.
My solo album. I put out albums before, but yeah, it was my first solo album.
And it was on your birthday, correct?
Yeah, 11/11.
11/11. Isn't that something? And now, from my understanding and my research, you put it out under your birth name.
Exactly. My baptismal name. I was born with 2 names. That's why I'm so split in life. Wait, did you want to know did you want to try that, or should I just say my name?
No, honey, look, I got Saint down.
Okay, let me know if it was a part of it. So it's Saint Kyriaki.
Okay.
It means Sunday in Greek. Also, in the Greek tradition, we're named after goddesses and saints.
Okay.
So my yaya, my grandmother, who's my best friend on my dad's side, who's Greek, is Kyriaki. So she was named after the Saint Kyriaki, who's a martyr, and so I was
Okay.
named after her. And she's 92. She's growing strong. So that's
Oh,
where I get
wow.
Kyriaki from. But my mom, she isn't Greek, right? She was baptized, but she wanted people to be able to, in America, be able to
Mhm.
pronounce my name. You know how it
Mhm.
is when
I
like
know
there's
how
so
it
many
is.
different names, and it's like, no, it's like this actually.
Exactly.
So they gave me Katie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, but both are. I guess when I looked at it, I was like, oh wow, what? But we'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to that in a
Okay.
minute because I want to finish up with you because you've done so many different things. You're also a podcaster,
Mhm.
correct?
Oh yeah.
A NFT artist,
Yep.
and you do voiceovers.
I do.
I just can't keep up. I had to read it verbatim because I was like, if I if I tried to remember that, shit's gonna be like, no, girlfriend. So you do a lot. So
Yes.
I want to let you talk a little bit about yourself. I've done an introduction and then we'll get into a little more. So tell me a little bit about Katie.
Sure. Sure. Oof.
You've
Where
done
can
a
we
lot.
where can we start? I mean, I guess
How long have
yeah.
you been? I know you're an actress, okay,
Yeah.
and how and I know it's been 2 decades, right? Is what I've read.
Uh-huh.
See, I
Yeah.
did my research,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
so what piqued your interest into becoming an actress? We'll start there.
Yeah. So, I guess starting from what piqued my interest to be an actor would be as a Scorpio, as a human,
Hmm.
I observe and
Right.
I sense and feel things, right? As an
Hmm.
HSP, a highly sensitive person, as an empath, although I didn't know that language when I was a child,
Right.
very sensitive to my environment. And I observed what was going on. And I had this ancient wisdom like
Mhm.
whispering to me. And I just was a seeker and I wanted more. And I loved language and I loved making other people feel good. And it was like
Mhm.
for me, I felt like it was a positive circle, like a positive loop to have others feel good. I felt a lot of
Mhm.
pain around me. I felt a lot of suffering.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, sunshine, and thank you for everyone tuning in here. I'm so grateful that you're here. We could be anywhere and we choose to be here. Thank you so much. That really means a lot. Um, and so I love vibrations and sound and language and
Mhm.
growing up with Greek mythology
Mhm.
growing up with reading poetry and having this independent space as this
Right.
warrior in life. My parents
Mhm.
were, my grandparents came from Greece. And so my
Mhm.
mom and dad, humble beginnings, they were
Right.
teens having
Mhm.
kids and they were working the American dream of, for the American dream 40 hours a week and providing. So we had a lot of independent space when we were home. So I had a lot of space to think and do my own thing. So we were raised very independent. I remember with a broomstick singing and dancing and entertaining to like 80s musics. And it just made me feel really good to make others feel good. And I felt that
Okay.
energy and excitement. So I wanted to go to Hollywood and I wanted
Mhm.
to be in entertainment. For me, it wasn't about a golden trophy, although awesome to have that accolade because I grew up,
Your grandmother and your grandparents and
yeah.
everything. Can you just pick up from there for me again, please?
Oh yeah. So they came from the old country.
Mhm.
They came from Greece. They provided a better opportunity for us. And
Right.
I not sure like what was from humble beginnings
Mhm.
and they were kids having kids and
Right.
they would go, they were building the American dream and they went to work 40 hours a week. And so we
Mhm.
had a lot of independent space and we were raised very independent. So I was able to tap into these poets, into the language and literature and have the space to be in flow, right? Like
Right.
it's a gift, it's a privilege and a luxury. Some people don't
Mhm.
have that, right?
Right.
People
Exactly.
have literally that space. And we're
Mhm.
sovereign beings when we come into the world, right? And then
Exactly.
there's codependency that happens. There's siblings on top of one another.
Mhm.
There's maybe
Mhm.
just chaotic families and things like where they don't have those barriers and boundaries of space. But we were
Right.
very isolated in a way. And
Right.
I think because of my parents being who they are, obviously I am who I am. But with that
Right.
being said, I just wanted the main point of me acting wasn't to, get an Oscar one day, although I watched all the music awards and all the
Mhm.
acting awards with the family growing up. It was like a thing we always did. I was be by the bedside, you know, like I always knew that's going to be me. I always knew that's going to happen. So it wasn't something
Mhm.
like, oh, I yearn to do this. Like I always just know it's within my calling,
Mhm.
you know? But
Right.
but that wasn't the reason why I was doing it. I wasn't for the fame and attention of winning an award. I
Mhm.
wanted to be an actor to make other people feel good. That was the main thing for me.
Do you think that you gravitated to one particular, to certain roles over another, or you are pretty diverse? You can pretty much jump in and become whatever character is presented to you.
The latter. I can totally just jump in. I
Okay.
I am so I can literally dump it on me, all those emotions.
But
My
it's so crazy. It's just one of those days. It's like you just, you just never know what's going to come up or come out. But I can see that, and I felt that too with your music. When I listened to some of your music,
yeah.
and I compare some of the different scenes that it's almost like I can see and I can feel a lot of the dialogue I was kind of looking at and reading, and I was like, I completely feel her in the music.
Thank you. Thank you.
I really do.
That
You're welcome.
really, really means a lot.
Mhm.
The album was exploring divine femininity in all genders and claiming and reclaiming
Mhm.
one's power. And I'm growing through reclaiming my own power because I
Mhm.
already had it, like I said a moment ago, I already had like a knowing about certain things, but
Right.
go on the journey of life. So like I feel like I chose to go on a self discovery and lose myself to find myself. It's like a famous quote, like lose yourself
Right.
to find yourself. And so I'm like reclaiming my power,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I'm wanting to not only do it for myself, but be as vulnerable as I possibly can, so other people can do that too. Because I know how alone I felt growing up. I felt so alone growing up, not having a lot of divine feminine energy supporting me, a lot of
Mhm.
masculine energy wanting to like be all up on that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I understand what you
Like
mean. I
not taking
understand.
me seriously, and it's like F you, you know?
Right, right, and I noticed, also, like, in being, and I can assume because 'cause I'm not an actress, of course, and being in Hollywood, I'm assuming you probably were faced with a whole lot of testosterone around there
Oh,
and trying
yeah.
to, just proving who you are. Did you find yourself always having to, of course, you have to go out for each part you get, but just what about the whole environment when you go into events and you go into different things? Do you always have to be this actress, or can you just be yourself?
Well, great questions. So first and foremost, anyone who has reputable reputation through an
Mhm,
agency or a management company with Hollywood, with casting directors, and
mhm,
then there's a system. So it's like the casting director, unless you know the director or something. But even so, like
mhm.
someone called me in for a project today, and
Okay,
but they said, do you want the creators of a show? But do you want the casting director to go through you or your agency? They already have a relationship with my agency. I'm like, put it through the agency
right.
just so I can be the talent. So I don't have to put the pressure and anxiety of, and have the emotional support.
Mhm.
Let the agents do what they do. Let the casting directors what they do.
I
You
feel
just
that
show up
totally.
and you do
Yeah.
good work. So when it comes to the craft of acting and the craft
Mhm.
of any business, having the right team in place who can support
It's
you and give
key.
you those opportunities, you're not going to get those things that where I'm about to go into, and some of the things maybe you highlighted on the
Mm,
testosterone kind of thing,
mhm,
because it's a business and you go and you do your
mhm.
job and you leave. So
Right,
it's not going to be wishy-washy of someone emailing you, texting you at weird hours or things like that. That's not going to
right.
happen. However, it's show business, right? So
Mhm.
like your agents get paid 10% if you're a union,
Right,
like, and they only get paid off of what you book. So the
right.
other percent is you going out to events, you going out and putting yourself on social media, your work out there in independent
Mhm,
film festivals, you collaborating with other artists and people to show your work. So then
mhm.
now so they can see you to then call your team to bring you in. So when you're out, and it's been a few years because
Right.
of what's been going on in the world,
Mhm.
real
Right.
in real life events, like very minimum. But like, yeah, so prior to that, it's like you know, when you go to, let's say, a club or an event or a hotel, because a lot of the events are at LA or or New York. I'm going to one with Renee Zellweger at a hotel for her new film. She's going to be there doing a talk. So that's like a daytime event. So which quality events are you going to? You know what I mean? I went to
Right.
Richard with the two girls who played in the tennis role, right, with the Williams sister, and like
Right.
that's
Serena and
yeah, that's
Venus.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at Fox, like or Warner Brothers during the day, at a daytime event. So what kind of events are you going to, right? So if
Right.
you go into events maybe more like, you know, drinking involved at nighttime, where things could, you know, slide into a more casual thing, which happens all the time, you know,
Right.
like
Right.
more like Art Basel, and I'm going to South by Southwest that's coming up, you know, in a couple weeks. So it's just about like how you present yourself and
Right.
how you allow other people treat you, how we allow them to treat us. So
I totally agree with you. I always tell my children, I'm like, the things that control you mentally control you emotionally and physically. So mentally, you have to be strong and you have to be able to handle things because it shows. And people never, they don't get to know who you are. They judge you visually most times. And then they get to know who you are. So do you feel like I know going to different events and rubbing and hobnobbing and all that stuff is a key, of course. Um, do you think that you being an actress, sometimes you can kind of lose yourself, the sense of who you really are inside when you're an actor and you're around all the different people who are also actors or whatever? Do you feel like you sometimes may lose Saint and Katie and you become this, these characters that you people see every day? Or is it very easy to still incorporate who you are when you're out mingling?
yeah, it's a really, really good couple of great points here, but I think like Socrates, know thyself. So when you have a core of
Mhm,
who you are, you're never
mhm,
going to really lose yourself.
mhm.
However, I've encountered a lot of insecurity, and not only
Right,
within myself but with others, like wanting to be accepted, people pleasing, wanting
right.
approval, wanting the attention. Like, why is so
Mhm,
and so getting this and I'm not getting this? Or like, how do
right.
they have a collective of people and I don't? So it's the comparison thing, which is a death threat when
Mhm,
we compare, you know. But the mental
mhm,
strength that you mentioned with your, you know, and then you mentioned your children, like my dad was a cross country runner and he turned me on to cross country running. So
mhm.
my life is like short term, medium term, long term goals, right? So
Okay.
when I'm going into an event or something, this is like a short term thing that could have long term success, right? I'm going in
Mhm,
to sow seeds like a garden. I'm going
mhm,
in to sow seeds. Like I'm going to South by Southwest because I'm a part of the art exhibition, an NFT art exhibition that's going to be there. And some of
mhm,
my works are there. But in addition, I'm going to mingle with, you know, my colleagues, things of that nature, and also gain like potential sponsors for my podcast and potential
mhm.
their future collaborations in business. So I'm going to sow seeds with
Right,
like-minded growth individuals who may appreciate me and honor me because I'm being
right.
honored because I'm a part of South by Southwest. I've always wanted to go and I haven't gone because I'm about like the gift of the invitation, showing up when there's like a purpose instead of just going
Right.
to go and twiddling my thumbs when I could
Mhm,
be somewhere else utilizing my time and my energy. It could be reciprocated. So if we're
mhm.
in tune with self and
Right.
we're aware of the energy that we're put out and like I'm not getting it back, like
Mhm.
check where we're putting the energy out if we're not getting that same energy going back in, you know? And it's a practice and it's a challenge.
Now, how did you, because you're still young. So
So are
how
you?
but thank you. But okay, but how did the young Katie kick down the first door? Because I'm sure the very first time when you walked in, did you see some faces that you had already seen on screens before? Or were these all people just at your same level at the time? Do you
Well,
remember?
when I first went to Hollywood, I went to
Mhm,
it was an event. It was sponsored by some car company, and it was very
mhm,
schmoozy, where, like,
mhm,
the drinks and the food, everything was catered,
uh-huh,
and I was invited, and
mhm,
the very first person I saw, I'll never forget, was
uh-huh.
Pauly Shore. And yo,
Really?
I grew up on Pauly Shore, and his mom owns like this comedy store
Uh-huh.
on set. It's like a famous comedy store. Um,
Mhm.
so I saw Pauly Shore, and for me, what you were saying earlier about like people judging people, well, within the
Mhm.
first 3 seconds, like you get a sense, you pick up you judge, but
You're right. Yeah, yeah.
when we're judging someone, we're only judging ourselves. So I may
Mhm.
look at it more of like an essence, a vibe of like, is the
Mhm.
vibe cool? Not like
That's
so much,
me.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's more of like a vibe thing, right?
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
an energy. So when I saw Pauly Shore, yo, there was this energy going like this.
Uh-huh.
I went right up to him like, "Hi," and he's like, "Hi," and we were hugging, and like our energies knew each other, and then we just like looked at each other like, oh, because I just thought I knew him from like
Uh-huh.
watching his movies
I
growing up.
know.
Felt like I knew him, but like it was after the fact. It was an energy, you know? And
Mhm.
that's how powerful energy is. And that's how powerful the kind
Right.
of acting is, you know, no
Mhm.
matter what kind of actor you are.
You don't have to tell me. Let me tell you. And I will let you know I'm not going anything off this little script I wrote. I wasted like hours typing up here. I'm strictly going off our conversation. But let me tell you this, speaking of that, years ago, when Atlanta was like, I'm sure it was kind of buzzing probably everywhere that Atlanta's the next hot Hollywood. And, you can go to Atlanta and be successful in acting and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, me, this girl right here, I said, I'm going to be an actor. So I'm going to go take some classes. So I found myself in some classes in Atlanta, right?
Cool.
At the time, my children were younger or whatnot. And I was there, and you guys make it look easy, but honey, it is not easy. They were telling me to stop, don't block, don't turn toward the camera. You can't block, you have to turn a certain way. And when I tell you, I just kept blocking the camera, like I just, I could not get it. I'm like, you know what? This is not for me. When you're watching things on TV and you're going to the movie, it looks so easy.
Yep.
You don't know about the cuts and the
Yep.
paste and not paste,
Yep.
but you know what I mean, editing. And it's crazy. It was so difficult. I
Yeah.
could not focus long enough. I was like, I must have ADD or something. Cause I mean, this is just like really
Well, it's a
it,
practice, it's a
ah,
discipline, and you build the muscle, right?
that's
So
true.
yeah, so many people
I
think,
gave
"Oh, I
up.
can do this." So many people think, "Oh, I can do this," especially with voiceovers. When people are like, "Oh, I can do voiceovers,"
Hmm.
it's like, okay, there's a craft to it, which is the most important.
Right.
But I remember when I was studying like nonstop with Susan Batson, like 12, 14 hours a day sometimes.
Uh-huh.
She's the acting coach for Juliette Binoche, Nicole Kidman, Oprah, Madonna,
Hmm.
like amazing.
Hmm.
And she's in New York. Batson. She has a book called Truth. It has a blue cover, like we're both bluing over here.
Louing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bluing. It's a blue cover. It's called Truth. It's a great
Uh-huh.
book. Um,
Okay.
and we would be in class, and there would be a class where one of the classes on, I think, Tuesdays, it was like you prepared a scene, and then you were in the camera, and then you sit down and the whole class watches you, and then all of a sudden, when the camera's on, all of a sudden people's lips start going up here, people
Uh-huh.
start standing like this, like weird stuff starts happening when like you're filming, like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's muscle memories, things start happening.
It
So
is.
yeah,
It
it's
is.
definitely a pride craft in many ways.
And that's why they say a lot of elderly people, just digressing this a teeny bit, they advise them to do puzzles and different things like that to kind of keep their mind kind of focused and going, because the older you get, you start forgetting things, dementia and all that kicks in. So they teach them to do puzzles and things of that nature, just to kind of, like you say, muscle memory, to
Yeah,
keep
keep the brain
keep
active.
your brain active.
Yeah.
And so, honey, I tell you, when I was there, they gave me a script and I had to go to the side to read it and learn it. I
Yeah.
was like, this is not. I got kids, a whole family at home. Let me go take my butt back to what I'm an accountant by
It
nature. Let me just go
uh,
do what I do, because
that
this.
well, everything's math in the universe, so that's very important.
But that was that. It was fun though, and if I could have focused and not had so many distractions, do you think having a family and all of that makes it more difficult to be able to hone it? Because some people have nannies, but I guess
Yeah.
that helps. Do
Great,
you?
great question. And I see Sunshine saying this really helps her on her journey and her purpose
Oh,
in life.
good,
That really
sunshine.
means a lot. Yay!
Yes.
Love that. Love that. It's such a great question you're bringing up because there is so much work, time, and discipline. And I mean, you can go out for
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of auditions before you get one, which means you're spending. Yeah, I mean, I went out for something on Monday. I got it Thursday. I prepared for 3 hours on Thursday. Friday, I prepared. I took all of my Saturday, all of my Sunday
Mm-hmm.
preparing. You put it down, you get some food, you rotate.
Mm-hmm.
But for 4 days, and then I recorded on Monday, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
record it here. I went to a studio. I paid someone to record
Mm-hmm.
it for me so I can focus on the craft, so they could do the
Yes.
tech stuff, and so
Right.
the emotional support. So it takes a team. It's not just you as an individual.
I
So
know. I know. I get that.
so with having a family, and I don't know the
Yes.
age, how young are your children?
Oh, honey, they grown. They real grown.
Okay, well, listen to this. So if they're grown, this is your time for you are creating a new canvas for you to be curious and play in a way for you to do something. There's
Mm-hmm.
voiceovers, right? It's still
Right.
craft, but it's not memorizing the lines. You can be on an iPad, looking right off the iPad, and it could be more
Mm-hmm.
fun. So you could be more sassy and playful,
Now let
doing
me
your
ask you this real
podcast.
quick. Let me ask you real quick while it's on my mind. The
Yeah,
voiceovers, like someone that's interested in voiceovers, do you
yeah.
have to have a unique voice? Because I heard a little snippet. I think I heard a snippet. Did you have one on your site? Like
I do
one was
voiceovers every day.
okay. I think I heard one. But it's like, do you have to have a certain type of voice to do voiceovers, or you have to just go to the training and learn how to turn on and off?
Any voice is amazing. If they want authentic British, they're not going to hire me. They're going to go authentic.
Gotcha.
Because of what happened with the riots and the uproar of what happened,
Mm-hmm.
the injustices and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's been
Mm-hmm.
a lot more opportunities for people of color.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the roles have been going to African American women and men.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now a
Mm-hmm.
lot of roles are going to non-binary people.
Okay.
So the whole game switched just like within a year. It's more broad. You
Right.
already have a home studio, like you can be anywhere in the world and do voiceovers. But with your sass and your attitude and how your personality of how comfortable you are, I
Mhm.
think training would be very good for you. Um,
Mhm.
I could empower you and show you steps that you can do that are playful and fun for you
Okay.
to do, from the privacy of your own home. But I do coach people. I have coaching clients. So I do industry
Oh.
coaching. Exactly. And I also offer bi-weekly Zooms for like group classes
Oh,
instead of
that's
like,
good.
I do individual with some people, but also it's a lot of time and energy, and I'm doing a lot. So I also have like a group Zoom, so it's like more feasible too. And then the thing
Right.
about it, when studying with Susan Batson, and when you're in acting class, a lot of
Mhm.
kids, they would do their work and they would do their scene and leave. I always stayed. I always stayed
Mm.
because like I said about observing, when you're watching
Mhm.
other people's work and what they say and
Mhm.
what they don't say and what they do, and what
Mhm.
they don't do, it percolates and gives you more strength,
Mhm.
power, and confidence to see what's out there. So that's
Exactly.
why sometimes the group Zooms are fun for me too, because it's interactive. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. That's good.
Mhm.
That's good to know. And a lot of, like with me with my podcast, when you were saying earlier how you rather go through your agency because they handle the tidbits of everything, you can focus on your craft. For instance, we were speaking earlier when the show just started and something crazy happened. I'm like, okay, now what is this? Because like, I hope she's still there. Now you got to figure out why did stuff shut down. Where if someone else is handling the technical part of it, you don't have to be stressed with writing your scripts out and having the dialogue and what's going on here. So as soon as because I'm starting an activewear line in the next month or so. So I actually have my products in. Thank you. I have to send
Women's
you one.
Empowerment Month. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
sure. I'll write
And
everything.
it's very difficult to be everything to everyone, and you kind of like lose yourself. And I know when I was reading up and researching you that you're big on
Yeah.
mental health, and learning about who you are and all of that. Can you tell me? I know you told us a little bit, but give me a little bit more of why mental health is so important to you and recovering and being healthy in that space. I kind of feel like I know from my aspect, but I want to know from you, like, why is that, recovering from trauma and all? Did you have anything personal, or it's just something you kind of
Oh,
gravitated.
1000% personal. I mean, I feel messed up right now, but I still show up, but my head
Mhm.
feels heavy. I'm growing through things. I'm transitioning like we all
Right.
are.
Like we all are.
We all are. And
Yeah.
it's a blessing because Khalil Gibran on Joy and Sorrow. How
Mhm.
do you know the joyous of the joy if you haven't experienced the depths of the sorrow? And if you
Mhm.
haven't felt an uncomfortable bed, how do you know what it's like to be in a plushy, amazing, sweet bed, you know?
Right.
He has
That's
this
true.
amazing poem on joy and sorrow that
Mhm.
I hope everyone will tune into. Um,
Mhm.
but the thing is, one of my stories is when I was in school, I already
Mhm.
knew what I wanted to do. I was just like a horse out of the gate, like
Mhm.
I'm like Huntress, the,
Mhm.
the goddess of the hunt. Okay, I'm a
Mhm.
hunter.
Mhm.
I go after what I want, and no one or nothing's gonna get in my way, not even myself. I've been detoured. It
Mhm.
happened.
Oh yeah,
I'm
we all
still
have.
focused. I'm still focused, and I'm still have the huntress within me, right? And
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
can hear it in Dreamland 1111, one of the
Right.
songs called Huntress Armidas. So,
Mhm.
um, so, but to stay on par of what you were saying, I was in school and I ran cross country, right? My dad turned me
Mhm.
on to cross country running, short term, medium term, long term goals. So
Right.
I was focused. So what happened was, so I was focused on like what I ate and the
Mhm.
physicality, my physical aspect of my body.
Right.
And so I
Mhm.
was in, it was called career decision making class. And we go to class, and I don't know if they still use chalkboards, but 1 through 100 was on the board with
Mhm.
100 different words. And we had to sit down and we had to pick 20. We had to write it
Mhm.
down. We had 20 pieces of paper, square rectangles,
Mhm.
and we had to write 20 of the words from the board. And
Mhm.
I wrote down my 20, and after that, the teacher said, prioritize what's number one. And for me, the number one thing was health, because
Mhm.
if there was health as number one, I could have everything on that was my list, and I could have
Right.
everything on the board.
Mhm.
However, I reflect and I notice now I was thinking physical health. I wasn't thinking
Thinking
mental.
mental.
I didn't think
Mhm.
about energy, thoughts, energy turn into
Right.
thought, that turn into form, that turn into matter. Like
Right.
I
Like
wasn't
keeping
thinking about
positive
that.
people around you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And our ruminating thoughts of positivity. Awesome.
Mhm.
Our ruminating thoughts of things that hold us back. Lethal. And it's like we hack
Mhm.
it. Oh, I'm doing this. Oh, I'm doing, and then 10 minutes later, oh, I'm doing this again. But then
Mhm.
we enjoy the suffering. We enjoy, being victims. We are attached to the suffering. We are,
Right.
it's like our hand. It's like if even though it's so uncomfortable, we're comfortable in the incomfortability in such a way where
Mhm.
it's toxic and it's not good that we do it. So but we keep doing it. But then we break out of it and we don't do it, and we see how good it feels and we feel how good it feels. And we're like,
Mhm.
I'm not going back there. But then we spin cycle and we don't realize that we went back there, and then we're in
Mhm.
that again. And years could go by before you realize like you're still in that old cycle. It's
Mhm.
psychological.
Yeah, absolutely. My husband is a neuromuscular therapist, so he has like a lot of doctor clients. He stays busy, right? And so years ago when he first got into it, a lot of people wasn't into they if they got sick, they would always just go to the doctor, get medicine, and they'll send them home and it's not treating what's really going on with you. So now a lot more people are into the healthy part of it, the eating healthy, and realizing that the muscles and things in your body all has a big impact on how we feel, just how we move,
Yeah.
and exercise, how important it is to just as you get older, you can't move because your muscles have wasted.
Yeah.
And the brain is a muscle, just everything. So yeah, it's so important to make sure you take care of the body in totality.
So two things. One, since you're bringing all this up, my
Mhm.
sister has a website. It's annachanacas.com. Same
Okay.
spelling as my last name. And
Okay.
she's the one that turned me on to Dr. Huberman, all these neuroscientists, Dr. Joe
Mhm.
Dispenza, like so many different people. and she works with mitigation and well-being and, circadian
Mhm.
rhythm and everything like that. So if anyone's listening and they want to reach out more, she's a specialist and she's taught me so much about health and wellness, and I'm so grateful for her. Um, and then also because I ran cross country, I feel
Mhm.
so blessed because I would have meets twice a week. So I would go get massages twice a week. So my
Mhm.
muscles, and growing up, I grew up in the spa. So like
Mhm.
people like look at me and they're like, "Oh, like what do you do?" Da da da. Like,
Mhm.
well, I was in the spa like as a teenager growing up.
Mhm.
That's where I
Mhm.
was, and
Yeah.
I'm not spying out like I used to anymore, but
Right.
I sometimes have to like force myself to go get a massage, but it's not like a luxury, it's a necessity. So
It's
our
a
blood
necessity.
flow, so on a cellular level, there's the rotation
Mhm.
because like I'm not running cross country like I used to. I'm not working out like I used to,
Mhm. Mhm.
but I want to. It just we're stuck in our own ways.
Right, and then with everything going on, you just kinda little like, you just you gotta be a little cautious nowadays, about it.
Yes.
Now let me ask you just to digress, and we're not gonna be much longer, but, I just wanna ask you a few more questions.
Yeah.
I know based on some of the things we've been talking about, how do you feel about, when people are like, and I would say a lot of men, but not only men, are they're not really for like the feminist movement. I listen to some podcasts, right? And I've heard certain people like, women, they'll have if a woman wants to I can't even think of nothing off the top of my head, but whatever. They'll be like, "Well, you want an equal right." So they don't want to. They're dating and or they're going out to eat, and they want him to pay. No, you wanted equal rights. You know what I mean, and things of that nature. How do you feel about people? Men that are against that,
Against what?
like the feminist movement, like when women were wanting, to have to be considered more, equal on an equal playing field
Well, this is
for.
a loaded question, but for men, from what I'm hearing, if men are into that thing, then it takes me to maybe it's going to make them feel that they're losing some kind of power.
That's the way I felt about it.
Maybe it's they're feeling um like, I mean, it's what
Not
they were
intimidate.
taught, and they feel like it's a righteous thing, and but
Mhm.
it's overbearing because I know in particularly I come from a very cultured family,
Mhm.
and so like sometimes what happens is I've seen like a server would ask the lady, the person, what would she
Mhm.
like to order, and then the man orders for her, and so
Right.
her voice feels silenced, like she
Mhm.
can't even open her mouth because she's afraid she's not going to be heard. So I
Right.
think there's extremes to everything, and then
Mhm.
there's balances. But for like a female identifying person or any person not being able to order their food at a restaurant,
Mhm.
speak what they want, or I've seen at town halls and events, and there's a group conversation with like a partnership,
Mhm.
and there's a group of friends talking and like couples, and then that partner
Mhm.
answers for
Mhm.
that person,
Mhm.
or that person, like say you or me were going to say something, and
Right.
then their partner dismisses
Yes.
them and says,
Right.
no, that's not how it's going to happen, blah blah blah, and then, oh, it's more like this, and then they
Mhm.
don't understand how ignorant they're being, and then
Exactly.
friends don't say anything, but then they go home and gossip and talk about it, and it's very catty and very small. And then
Right.
the last thing I that comes to me is like, if we're in a partnership and I'm like, I'm not going to go to this event. I'm not going to go out of state to this event. And then this poor person doesn't listen to my wants and needs. I want to stay home. I want to go
Mhm.
dancing or take an aerobics class or whatever. But the
Mhm.
person the partner doesn't listen to my needs. I see this so
Mhm.
many times in married couples where
Mhm.
they, the divine feminine will want to stay home to nurture, to be home. And the
Right.
partner forces them to go on a plane, forces them to go to this thing, belittles them, makes them feel small, makes them feel
Mhm.
unheard, manipulates them. Oh,
Mhm.
see, it wasn't that bad.
Right.
You wanna do it. You know it's gonna be
Right.
great. You know you wanna do it. I said, "No,"
Mhm.
I said, "No, I don't wanna
It's
do
like, I
it.
don't wanna do it.
I
Right.
just don't wanna do it." Like, I would like to stay home.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think all those things maybe come into play with, what comes to me when you're mentioning these topics.
Right. And the reason I kind of threw that topic out is because I know your stand on the women's movement and different things, how you feel about certain things like that. And I can tell just from your energy and the way you speak about certain things that you're a very strong woman. And as a matter of fact, I can see it in the roles you played that I've had a chance to look. Very strong. So that's the reason why. And I have been seeing a lot of different podcasts and things out. And I was getting like very frustrated with certain topics and things that certain podcasters were having. I'm like, I wonder how she feels about that, being that, you're really big on women and where we are and us having our own mental, capacity to make our own decisions and think for ourselves. So I was wondering how you felt about that.
Well, I also want to extend a brushstroke that's a new discovery for me that I'm just
Mm-hmm.
gaining the confidence, from my core to share, and I'll, share here with you is
Mm-hmm.
um because of being this, I go by she, her, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
identify as, so I'm like this little girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but I wanted to be a business woman in a man's world wearing the pants. So I did everything
Mm-hmm.
I did, but when it came to an angel investor, someone putting capital into my
Mm-hmm.
vision as an artist and a humanitarian of the planet and who I was, I thought everyone was like that. I thought
Mm-hmm.
everyone had that within them, right? But I was looking outside of myself for that energy of money instead of internally going from within myself or to a divine feminine or a
Right.
female identifying person. So I went through this journey for almost 2 decades. And long story short,
Mm-hmm.
um, I saw the, what happened with my experience and how
Mm-hmm.
isolated I felt. So when I did season 4 of my podcast called She's All Over the Place,
Mm-hmm.
which is in season right now, we have like 77 episodes going on of me
Oh wow.
blabbing away. But the women empowerment series, I speak for women, and I hold space. And I'm speaking for women.
Right.
Speaking for someone who would look at me and say, "Oh, you're a woman. You're a female. She, her." And but also like I've also identified as very masculine growing up. Not
Mm-hmm.
so. I felt more like a town. My what
Tomboy.
my niece says now,
Yeah.
the town boy. I'm a
Yeah.
town boy, Aunt
I'm a
Katie.
yeah.
And and I knew I was like an indie artist, like town
Yeah.
boy, and that's what I was. And so I was really uncomfortable when everyone started talking about like, all these different, pronouns and stuff. I was like very silent 'cause I was still like discovering and feeling out like what is going on
Who
here.
you are.
So
Yeah.
I identify as she, her, but I also am non-binary. So although
Mm-hmm.
I'm holding space for women because I didn't have that and I want to hold
Right.
space. I'm holding, and so you're only strong as your weakest link. So I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
empower myself and to understand. I'm growing through this vessel and journey of understanding to explore all gender identities and to
Right.
not put labels on things, kind of like what you were saying
Mm-hmm.
earlier, and
Mm-hmm.
what maybe some of the feminist movements missions are.
Yeah.
In
Right.
addition, I'm not blaming and shaming quote unquote masculinity or men. I also
Mm-hmm.
stand and speak for men also. So,
Mm-hmm.
like because they get shat on a lot too. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
things are happening there. But first,
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely focused on exploring divine femininity in all genders and holding space for maybe someone who's like me or
Right.
a little girl like me.
That needs a voice. I got it. I got it. But let me ask you this and now wrap up. Well, we almost have to wrap up, but I did want to ask you this right before we wrap up because I want to have let you have the last word. Your music. I'm going to talk about your music really quickly.
Yeah.
When I listened to it, a couple songs, I because I was kind of getting ready for the show and I was listening and getting ready. I noticed your music had a lot of different instruments and sounds and emotions and energy in it. All of that. Can you let me know? I know you briefly spoke on it, but what was behind all of that? Was it just like expression and letting everything, leaving everything on the table?
Yeah.
Whatever's there, let it all out. Is that where you were going with that? Because I noticed in the songs that I heard, all of them had a lot of different, an array of instruments and sounds and emotions coming out.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful question. So it's a manifestation and a development, a process.
Mhm.
It's just like poetry. So with poetry, there's written words, or with spoken
Mhm.
word poetry, there's language, words,
Mhm.
vibrations. So with the sounds of the instrumentals, it's still an energy that you were saying. It's an energy, but they're on pads, right?
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
like poetry on pads. So instead of them being words, they're instruments. And what happened with when the world blew up in 2020, um,
Mhm.
I was able to have such space to take my catalog of music, to put it
Mhm.
together, and I saw I had 5 different genres, you know?
Right.
One included, funk, hip hop,
Mhm. Mhm.
house, dubstep, future trap, and,
Mhm.
I really love those bangers. So I thought,
Right.
my birthday gift to myself would, I'll release an EP, right? An
Mhm.
extended play. It was just gonna be instrumentals,
Right.
4 or 5 songs of instrumentals, but then I was going on this exploration of reclaiming my power and divine femininity, and
Mhm.
so I wrote poetry to the instrumentals, and
Mhm.
I wrote the poetry, and then I recorded it on spoken word, and then
Mm.
some people
Okay.
just like instrumental, so I left
Uh-huh.
the instrumental, but
Right.
then so 7 out of 11 are instrumental, but 4
Right.
out of the 11 have the words and the language of what I'm exploring through that divine energy, right? So that's how that came to be.
Do you have to channel yourself do you see any type of cohesion in acting and when you actually write your music and when you actually sing or speak your spoken words, do you find any type of correlation there in what you do as an actress
Yeah.
and what you do as artist singing?
Yeah,
An
1000%.
artist.
It's
Okay.
definitely an allowance to play. I like to
Mm.
what I need to, right?
Mhm.
And I grew through this challenge of not having that very thing I need as an artist is homeostasis and
Mhm.
emptying out my vessel where
Mhm.
there's such silence, such
Mhm.
clarity that I'm completely empty, so then I can be so open and so willing with the universe to
Mhm.
allow it to come through my vessel. And so I'm able to get to this clear space
Mhm.
of the unknown in silence. And when I'm able to do that, then it's like this portal that I go through. And
Mhm.
that can be for painting,
Right.
acting, music, because then I'm almost like in a flow state and
Right.
I'm able to play and
Mhm.
create. It's very difficult to do when you're around
Mhm.
other people,
I
or
agree.
not
Mhm.
only people, but other artists who don't respect or understand your process.
Yeah, I get that. Mhm. I get that. Well, I tell you what, you were full of information and honesty and all that, and I so appreciate it. Now, what I would like you to do, if you could basically leave my audience with um some advice
Yeah.
on becoming the best version of oneself, what would you and how would you express that to them? What would be the best channel for them to take to become the best version of oneself? Because sometimes people have a difficult time just starting.
Yeah. So, okay, this could go in I could go on forever, but, a couple 3 main things or 2
Points,
main things.
yeah.
So,
Mhm.
1, I would check out She's All Over the Place podcast because I give nuggets
Let me
and
write that down.
gems there,
Oh,
so definitely check
mhm.
out my podcast.
Oh,
You can
absolutely.
binge watch because the topics are very labeled of what it's talked about.
Mhm.
Healing frequencies, forgiveness, all different kinds of
Right.
things with spirituality. The other thing I would say, 2 people that come to my heart and soul and mind that I want to share with your audience today is, 1, Gabor Mate. Gabor Mate, Gabormate, and I did an episode on my podcast about Gabor Mate. And
Mhm.
one day I binge watched him for 16 hours, and he
Mhm.
demystifies trauma, right? It's such an isolation, it's such a like secretive thing. But
Mhm.
kind of what you were saying earlier about judging people and how we were talking about going to events,
Right.
or how I was talking about like couples being together. The thing
Mhm.
is this, when what I'm what I got, many things, but one thing I got from Gabor Mate is when we're in a group of people for meeting for the first time for 5 minutes and they leave and someone starts whispering ta 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 or ta ta ta.
Mhm.
It's like,
Mhm.
how can we judge and understand someone within 1 minute, 5 minutes, or even 5 hours
Right.
if we don't even understand our own trauma? We don't even know
Mhm.
what's going on with ourselves. How can we say what's going on with them? It's just
For
a
someone else.
projection. It's just a
Exactly.
projection.
Mhm.
So I would binge watch Gabor Mate, and then the other thing I will say is Caroline Myss, Myss. She's from Chicago. She's a mystic intuitive. She has so many audiobooks, like over 10, and it's her angelic voice that reads them. You
Mhm.
can get it on Overdrive, the app, for free through your public library. You just put in your library card. It's 30 audiobooks or ebooks, up to 30 per month for free. I like
Mhm.
audio so I can just be the artist, be
Mhm.
the vessel to soak it all in. But
Right.
she has an amazing TED Talk on choices on YouTube,
Mhm.
that you can watch. And she's amazing. And she talks about like being there's the same building, right? There's the same building,
Mhm.
and someone's on the ground level with the taxi cabs, the horns honking, the people, the pollution, the rats, the garbage smelling. Then the same building, someone's at the rooftop with this view of Central Park, with caviar, with the butler, and it's quiet and it's silence. So, are we living on the ground floor or are we living in the penthouse, right? And a lot
Mhm.
of us, I don't want to say a lot of us, but the struggles and the things that we're growing through, like, would you want to be here on the ground level or in the penthouse? Clearly, we want to be in the penthouse,
Good
but
house,
we're
right.
making ground level choices and we're treating
Mm.
ourselves in a ground level way. And
Mm. That's
last
heavy.
yeah,
Yeah.
last thing
Mhm.
is there's a knife, right? And there's a
Mhm.
knife. We're going through this life no matter what. We're here. We chose to be here. We're growing and going through the life, and we have a choice. No matter what's happening, we're going through life. We're here. We're doing it.
Mhm.
So are we holding it by the shaft or are we holding it by the blade and won't let go and it's
Mm.
bleeding? So we're holding it
Mhm.
by the blade, and I do it. Sometimes I'm
Yeah,
holding it by the shaft, but sometimes I'm holding it by the
right.
blade. You're holding
Right.
on so tight, and I'm hurting myself. I'm
Mhm.
making myself bleed by holding it from the blade. And we know
Mhm.
we're doing it. That's the first awareness. No, we're doing it.
Mhm.
You know?
Right. And absolutely loving the person you see in the mirror is key.
Yeah.
So, anyway, thank you. You
Caroline,
were
thank
so
you for being here.
awesome. If
I'm
you
grateful.
when you come to Atlanta, please send me a short email so we can try to catch up if you're going to be here a couple days.
Uh
I would love
when
to meet you.
sooner than later. I'm all about it. I'm
All
in.
right.
All
All
right.
right.
Oh, I have a shout out.
Oh,
DJ Gumbo Soul. Find him on Facebook and Instagram. He's a DJ. He at a local Atlanta places, and you
okay.
definitely reach out and say, "Hey, what's up?" And he'll
Okay.
invite you and stuff. But he's really dope.
Okay, and that's DJ
You and your husband,
Gumbo's
you and
Soul.
your husband go and meet him. Yeah,
Okay. I'm definitely DJ Gumbo Soul. Got it.
yeah.
Got it.
Gumbo Soul, Soul. DJ Gumbo Soul. Yeah.
Well, look at here. I got me a friend in Hollywood now. Hmm, hmm, hmm.
Yeah, I'm a DJ in Atlanta.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and I will definitely be in touch.
Okay, sounds really good.
All
Take
right.
care. Thanks for everyone
All
tuning
right.
in.
No problem. Bye bye.
Okay, bye. Reach out to me anytime.
Absolutely.
Yeah.